Hello, hello, hello. You know the routine. Once more and again, this is Jeannine LaRue of LaRuelist Cafe. We're going to have a great time tonight. Tonight, we have four girlfriends who have come on and they're going to talk about, we're not just going to talk about this COVID. We're going to talk about COVID and we're going to talk about the other side because we know there's going to be another side. And so tonight's topic is going to be coping in crisis, thriving in chaos. And I like those two words. We're talking about the coping. That's what we've been doing for several weeks now. But we're talking about thriving in chaos. Right now, so many women and men throughout our country can identify with trying to cope in this period of crisis. But what about the thriving in chaos? We're going to meet a group of four girlfriends who are determined not to waste this moment of crisis, but to make definitive decisions about what they want to see, what they want to be, what they want to do on the other side of this pandemic. And there will be another side. These women aren't unlike any other visionary woman. They are heads of their households, they are executives, entrepreneurs, community leaders, ministers. They're going to tell us about some next steps of what we might want to think about as we shift the realities to the new normal. And by the way, as I have said in the past, this may be a panel of women, but there is something good for everybody here. So if you're a man, listen up. We got a message for you. If you're old like I am, and they say I'm not old, but I am. I'll be 70 years old. I know that I'm going to learn something tonight. It doesn't matter whether you're black, brown, white, yellow. It does not matter. There's a message for you here tonight. So we want to sit back, hold on to your bonnets and your hats. It's going to be a marvelous ride with today's guest. And we're going to introduce you to the first guest. In fact, most of these guests won't even be an introduction, but I'm going to do it because that's what I'm supposed to do. So the first person we're going to bring on is my friend, Michellene Davis. Michellene Davis is Executive VP. Did you all hear that? Because she is the first ever female, the first ever person of color Executive VP of RWJBarnabas Health. She is the former treasurer for the state of New Jersey. She was, not now, she was the youngest. Now, it's not that she's not young anymore. She's still kind of young, but she was the youngest person to head the New Jersey lottery, which I never won. She never helped me with that. She's a former chief policy counsel to former Governor John Corzine. And I want to note three things that Michellene has created while being with RWJBarnabas Health. She has created the Health Women's Leadership Alliance, Young Professional Advisory Council, and the Corporate Institute for Internships. She has served as president of many organizations. She's serving on tons of nonprofit, charitable, university boards. We are so pleased tonight to have none other than my good friend, Michellene Davis.
Thank you so much, Jeannine. It's an honor to be here. I look forward to the discussion.
And we're going to bring on another person who is not a new entity to New Jersey. Some of you in other states may not know her, but when you're done tonight, you will know her quite well. I've known her for about 20 some years. She is Dana Red. Dana Red is the former state senator here in New Jersey, the former mighty mayor of the city of Camden. She actually took the Camden city from state control to local control, and that's not an easy feat, I will tell you that. She transitioned her city police department into the Camden County Police Department. She is currently the CEO of Rowan Rutgers Camden Board of Governors. But let me tell you, none of that is why she's on this show tonight. Tonight, she is going to give us she's going to motivate us because I found out something about my good friend and former mayor, Dana Red. I found out something that I did not know. She is a survivor of cancer. And she's going to talk about it tonight. She's going to talk about getting that diagnosis. She's going to talk about going through the treatment. We know that there are so many of you out right now who are going through treatment. I have a very good friend right now who's watching us from Atlanta. She is dealing with 4th stage pancreatic cancer. We want to hear the story. So, Mayor, thank you. And you said call you Dana. I always will call you Mayor. So, Mayor, thank you for coming on here tonight.
Thank you, Jeannine, for having me. I am honored to be here with you and with such a distinguished panel, and I look forward to sharing my story.
Thank you so much. Al, here we go with the DC Marshall. Everybody knows her. I go on to her Facebook page. She has all of these people, not just from all over the country, but Dee Marshall from all around the world. We're going to bring her on. She is the CEO of Diverse and Engaged. She's a certified coach, internationally known motivational speaker. She's a Google tech policy influencer, a Wall Street alum, and we're going to ask her a little later, what is that? She's a curator of Diversity on the Hill, a contributor to some of my favorite publications, Essence Magazine, Black Enterprise, the New York Times, and we are just honored to have with us, and we like to have these moms sometimes too, but today we have our own Dee Marshall with us. Dee, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
And last but not least, that smile. All right, folks, don't let that smile fool you. She is a retired FBI, people who you never want to see on your doorstep, an FBI agent. And she's also a certified executive coach. She is the CEO of the Rhonda Glover Group. She is the chief architect and developer of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives Youth Program. She's a contributing co-author. Now get this, because this is what she's going to talk about this tonight. She is the contributing co-author to Dear Fear, I guess it's Roman numeral 2, Dear Fear 2, 18 Powerful Lessons on Living Your Best Life on the Other Side of Fear. And I'm going to tell you, audience, I got so excited when I read the description of this book. I went online and I read about it, and they said it was the last one from Amazon. So if they weren't telling the truth, feel free to go out and buy that book tonight. But I'm really, really looking forward to hearing from her. The other thing I think it's interesting to note is that she is an international speaker on topics such as active shooter in the houses of worship. Thank you for coming, Rhonda, onto this show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really jazzed up and excited to just be a part of the discussion, because these are my girls. So this is going to be good.
So if our producer, yeah, there we go. I want to see all of them at once. So all the folks who are out there, and you have quite a few people watching right now, these are the 4 girlfriends. And we're going to have a good old girlfriend chat tonight. We're going to have the good old guys are going to be a part of it. I'm excited about this. So right now, we're going to turn to the healthcare person. Michellene, we're going to want to hear from you. Tell us something about your journey.
Oh, my goodness. My journey actually began as a young girl in the city of Camden. I grew up in an environment which perhaps was under-resourced, but it was extremely love-wealthy. And I mention that, and I start there because so much of that I really believe, and I truly try to bring into every other room where I am in. which means that the lived experience of growing up in an environment which has been underinvested in historically, but certainly in recent years has really been rebounding, and something I am very proud of my friend Dana Red for. But also, I believe that I've brought that to every academic environment, as well as every government and every corporate environment as well, in order to ensure that the issues and the vulnerabilities, quite frankly, are a part of any policy discussion in which I am involved.
So I want to hear about those policy discussions, because right now, as we sit and we look at the numbers of what's happening with this pandemic, we're seeing that the Black and the brown numbers are off the chart. Something has happened here. What's going on, and how do we handle this, Mitch?
Jeannine, thank you for raising that question. These again are my girlfriends, and so they have to hear it from me all the time. Those of us who are actually in the space of health equity, we're not surprised by the unfortunate outcomes that we see, and quite frankly, that we are reading about in every national publication that COVID-19 is bearing out for us. Someone said, and I believe well-intentioned, they mentioned that COVID-19 and the pandemic is the great equalizer. I disagree. It is the great magnifier, right? What it has done is it's placed a laser focus on what we always knew was slightly beneath the surface. And that is that as a result of some of that underinvestment that I mentioned earlier, as a result of structural and systemic inequity, we find individuals who have been redlined into certain communities to live, right, where they could only live in those communities, who now are living in densely populated, often overcrowded, sometimes multifamily, multi-generational homes and housing, who quite frankly were also zoned in these areas where all the suburban areas were able to raise a NIMBY, which is not in my backyard, in order to make certain that any industrial issues that were going to be present within a particular district were also in the same communities that were overpopulated and largely Black and brown, right? So when we talk about historical disinvestment, we're talking about everything from redlining, quite frankly, to discrimination and zoning. I can give you a perfect example of certain municipalities that have both the tire incinerator and the cement factory and the county incinerator all within that particular environment. Well, the issue there is that certainly those environmental pollutants, what some call environmental injustice, tend to contribute to a higher rate of asthma in children, right? Because children often have higher rates of asthma, they then often restrict themselves, not voluntarily, but because they can't run and play as others in other communities can as much. And so as a result of that, we see heightened levels of obesity, etc. We definitely also see in these same communities a lack of access to fresh, organic, affordable foods, fresh fruit and produce. And so what we tend to have are not just food deserts, but food swamps, right? So that you have these same environments, which are heavily populated instead with fast food, right? Foods with high sugary substances, lots of drinks with high sugary substances. And so if you think about it, right, if you hearken back in your own mind to the last time you were perhaps in an urban environment and you were driving down the street, you saw, yes, the McDonald's and Wendy's, but then you also saw, right, something else that was a sort of a neighborhood place where food is purchased. That food tends to be high in saturated fat, fried. And so usually, though, you don't see an organic grocery store right there. And so those are some of the issues that help to contribute to some of the negative health outcomes and health disparities that we right now are seeing in real time. You asked the perfect question, right? So what can be done, right? What can be done about it? So much of this is really layered, but there are really lots that can be done. A lot has been done in areas across the country. I will give you this example of what's going on right now, both in Chicago with CASE, as well as in Newark, quite frankly, under Mayor Raz Baraka with the Newark Anchor Collaborative. So several entities have come together. Our dear friend Brian Haygood of the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice published a policy paper about the two Americas, and talked about the fact that it is interesting that the city of Newark had a particular unemployment rate that was higher than the state average, and yet it is also home to large-scale corporations like hospitals, universities, private entities, small ones that you've never heard of, like Audible and Panasonic and United and PSE&G. And as a result of that, we came together in order to talk about how could we literally address the employment gap between that particular city as well as and the state of New Jersey. What we found was that if we just hired 2,020 individuals by the year 2020, that we would be able to seriously put a dent in that particular city's unemployment rate. It caused us to more fully embrace our anchor mission, so our place-based presence, in order to help create economic stimulus within that community. So to hire intentionally from a community that has been disenfranchised, that has historically been disinvested, right? To revisit our own HR policies. One of the ones I love to utilize is, I don't think you really need a master's in library science in order to be a file clerk, right? So like revisiting some of that, what's been set up structurally, even within institutions, locally procuring. We just saw from COVID that the global distribution chain leaves much to be desired, right? And we had the breakdown, no one could get PPE. So what if we began to manufacture and then procure locally, so that the next time there is such a pandemic, that we are not quite in that same situation, right? What do we need to do differently? How can we make certain that this money is flowing back through these communities that have been hardest hit? And what would that need to look like? And then true community investment, right? So inclusive growth, right? Not gentrification. What do we need to do in order to ensure that all individuals have an opportunity to grow up healthy and well, so that we're pushing back against what we refer to in healthcare as the social determinants of health, which are really just those same things that your grandmother always knew, and that was that she really can't be as concerned about making it to her mammography appointment if in fact there was no heat in the house, right? If in fact everyone did not have an adequate and healthy amount of food to eat. And so really, what do we do with the factors that affect your health that are outside of the clinical environment, outside of just your time with your doctor? And how can we ensure that we're shoring up these communities in a long-term sustainable way?
Thank you for that, Mitch. And one of the other things that I have been concerned about, I go grocery shopping every 10 days now, which is something new for me because I used to run in and out of the store every day. I mean, I had to go to Whole Foods every day. I had to go to Wegmans, it had to always be like fresh. And now I go every 10 days. But it has not gone by me that almost everybody behind the cash register is Black or brown, the essential employee. When you look getting on the public transportation, there's no way you can have any kind of social distancing sitting on a bus or sitting on a train. And I think that when you look at what folks are making too, we've got to look at this whole essential employee situation, who is doing these jobs where they have to be there even when we're not. And they're serving us every single day. Without them in these supermarkets, we don't eat.
That's exactly right, Jeannine. You are absolutely right. And the issue there is that so many of these individuals come from these same communities that I've just mentioned. And so compound upon that, the fact that that person has chronic asthma. Someone said to me, that they were concerned about those who struggle with chronic health conditions that are now sheltering at home, who are really the individuals who we aim to aid as a result of doing work in health equity and social determinants. I was so surprised to hear that they thought that those people were able to shelter at home. I'm like, they are stocking your shelves. They are making and then delivering your food,
Exactly.
right? They are literally making certain that your groceries show up on your front steps. These are the individuals who have not been able to do that. They are still driving the buses, right, in order to make certain that the others who are getting on in order to be the home health care aide who goes to the nursing home and or to other places still makes it on time. And Jeannine, I love what you said when you mentioned that particular point. I will tell you this, and I always have my data, so please forgive me. But
right.
I will tell you, many of the essential workers are actually within the ALICE category, right? Asset limited, income constrained, but employed. And they make less than $20 an hour. For someone who is working a full-time job, that is approximately $42,000 per year for a 40-hour work week. It is $39,000 for a 37.5-hour work week. So when we look at that, what do we know about the state of New Jersey, right? One of the wealthiest states in the country. We know that 51% of all New Jersey workers are ALICE. And that is something that to me is really a key component of that. If you take a look at that and then you lay it on with gender as well, 40% of women make up 2/3 of nearly the 23.8 million workers in the 40 lowest paying jobs in America, including essential roles, right? So, these are the types of things that we really have to make certain that we're thinking about when we are designing policies, both as governments as well as employers, on how it is and what it is that we are going to do for employees, as well as for community members at large. I think it's a really key component to that. More than 60% of jobs in the U.S. Pay, again, less than $20 an hour, but nearly 40% are already at or below that particular level. So, one of the things that I've been saying is, as people talk about, I can't wait till we get back to normal, is, I really just want to put a pin in that, right?
Yes.
Because normal was really pretty inequitable. And so what we really want is to be intentional and thoughtful and deliberate about the normal that we choose to return to, right? Let us choose to return to a normal where individuals do not have to make a choice between their fresh, right, food, their fruits and vegetables, and their prescription.
Yeah. And Dee, getting back to normal, restarting. You have a lot of folks who got the pink notices already. They know there is no job left for them right now. You have some people who are working at home and they don't know if there's going to be something to return to. I think about this every single day. What do you do? I mean, this is your field. You help people in transition and you help them figure out how to get their lives together and plan their goals. How do we restart?
So I think this is an interesting time to restart because we have time now to make a decision. In fact, I think we have the time right now to make a different decision about what it is that we want to do as our chosen profession. And I would say this is a moment of clearing, if you will, a moment to get really clear about who you want to be first. I think that's what this time affords us to do as we're sheltering in place. We get to now rethink about the current job that we have or the job that we don't have and what we want to return to. I certainly understand that some people may not have the luxury of deciding what they want to do. They need work now. But I do first want to say this is an opportunity during sheltering in place to think about what you are here to do, what you are purposed to do, and lead with that. That would be my first place to start. Whenever we're thinking about reinventing ourselves, whenever we're thinking about our next career, whenever we're thinking about our 2.0, or for some of us, our 3.0, I always start with purpose. So that was the first thought. The second, in terms of what do people do now if they are among the unemployed? Again, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to innovate. It's an opportunity to create. And so let me say two things about this. At the beginning of the year, the turn of the decade, one of the things that I intentionally invited my clients to do was to disrupt themselves. So whatever it is that they have been doing for the last decade, to rethink everything. And to really get comfortable with the idea that you may need to disrupt yourself. And so that was even before COVID, and disrupting yourself, just rethinking everything, from what it is that you do for a living, and how it is that you make your money, and how it is that you live your life, and all of the places that you're spending your time. This is an opportunity to reevaluate. The other part of that conversation, and why it is that I was inviting disruption, is because the world had already been giving us clues that you need to innovate in whenever field you're in, and for the most part, but to be thinking about how you can solve problems differently, how you can approach your work differently, right? We don't have time to go back, but we could, if anybody ever remembers Blockbuster, and, all of the things that were once huge, and they served a real need or a desire and a want, and then they completely vanished. And so I would say, for people trying to figure it out, this is an opportunity for you to innovate, right? And to solve a problem. There are problems that exist right now as a result of COVID, right? It's an unfortunate position that we are in. But I like to say, first, get perspective. Second, know the game, and the game of recession and the game of crises. And here is the game, that there are two teams. There is the A team and the B team. The A team is the team that is immersed in the work of COVID-19 and tracking hour by hour all of the numbers and all of the movement. And we're grateful for those people who have that responsibility. I'm grateful for the friends that, they know what the numbers are at the state level. They're plugged in, and they can share what we need to know. The media, they share what we need to know. But then they're on the A team. But then there are people on the A team, they're not being compensated, paid, and it's not serving them to be on the A team. And that is plugged in to COVID and all of the movement. It's not serving them. But the B team, Jeannine, and everybody here, I share this. The B team, they are, let's call them the billionaire team or the billion team. They're looking at how to be part of the solution. They're looking at how to create. They're looking at how to innovate, whether it's hand sanitizer, whether it is, teaching solutions, right? Whether it is how to pull parents together at home to help them solve their problem of having to work a full-time job and to be an educator. So the B team is going to make out in the season. They're going to come out smelling like roses. They're going to well and wealthy and financially independent, whether they're billionaires or millionaires. There are people who are creating and innovating, and I believe that's the opportunity. Whether you're 50, whether you're 70, listen, you can go back and do the research on most of or many of the companies that exist today, from Ford Motor, from auto to some tech even. Well, not tech as much. Those creators and innovators, they got their start when they were over 50. There you go. So from a Walt Disney to a, Ford. So again, there's a list out there in the public domain that talks about how the millionaires, the billionaires, the independently wealthy became that way in and during recession or crises or from lack, and they did it after 50 years old. And so I know
That's me clapping in the background. I'm clapping on that after 50 years old.
That's you. With all of your genius. Let me just tell you something. With all of your genius, if you are over 50 and you're here, the season is yours. There was a time and there was a season. I would say if you are Gen Y, and it's still your win, Gen Y, it's your season. But over 50, with your knowledge and understanding and wisdom, and you're much more grounded. Although even if you're having some challenges now and a little bit of anxiety and worry is showing up, this is your opportunity. So starting a home-based business right now, so you can get that tax write-off, so you can qualify in 2021, taking your talent and, you know, offering that intellectual capital, creating products and things that you can do, you know, whether it's writing books or producing content, there is so much opportunity. It's just a matter of shifting perspective.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I have to tell you, one of the things, you know, when we had this lockdown, I'll never forget the day I went upstairs and I went into my closet. And I said, oh my goodness, it's time to do the transitional closet. So I wanted to get rid of the, and you could do the whole team there, Raheem. I love seeing the whole team. Don't take me away from my team. I love these women. So I said, I know I have to switch my closet and bring out the transitional outfits and then wait for the warmer weather. And then I'm going to flip it. So it'll be the, you know, the hot clothes. And then all of a sudden we were locked in. And I had nowhere to wear clothes. And it made me think. I sat back and I said, let me think about my life. All these shoes, all these pocketbooks had to go with this, had to go with that. All of the jewelry, some of them look like they could be weapons. And they're so big. And I said, you don't have anywhere to wear this. Rethink your life. What is this really all about? And then I began to get fearful. And you know, Rhonda, tell me about dealing with fear. I am telling you, that first month, we were told to shelter in. And then they started talking about, well, if you're in your 60s and if you have certain conditions and I'm looking, I'm like, they're talking about me. I'm scared to get up in the morning. I don't know, should I just stay under the covers? Tell us about fear. You're an expert at this stuff.
Well, you know, I think in some respects we all are experts about fear because we felt it. We know what it feels like. We know what it feels like to be in that place of fear. So one of the things that I go back to is that I know that, you know, 2 Timothy talks about we're not to be governed by fear. And so that is very, very key for us to get that. Now, I know that I like to study and, you know, read on different topics. And so just looking, you know, Zig Ziglar, he talks about fear and he talks about, you know, as false evidence appearing real. But one of the things I like to talk about with fear is that take whatever you are fearful about and focus on it and take a look at what it is and how it's affecting you and what it's doing to keep you from where you are to go. And then you want to evaluate it. You want to evaluate that fear. You want to triage it. You want to set some sort of degree of urgency to it and just really do a deep dive on it, right? You know, understanding, you know, it is that you or feeling the way that you are feeling towards fear. And then you want to attack it. You want to go after it. You really want to be aggressive in your action in dealing with fear because you don't want it to hold you back, because fear is nothing more. It's bondage. It's holding you back. It's holding you down. It's keeping you from where you want to go. I know it keeps you from your greatness and your genius and everything that is for you. And then once you get to that place, you want to move on to how you want to reset, right? You want to restart. You want to adjust. You're going to be adjusting to whatever you are about to embark on. And then you could very well fail again. And then that fear will show up. But you have to understand is that you're not going to get to where you want to be until you try. And so fear shows up and it can keep us from moving forward. And so when it keeps us from moving forward, you stay stuck. And just like I mentioned before, you're in bondage. You're being held down. So you really have to stare fear and just look at it and just, and just really dissect it. Because you're not going to, you got to get beyond it. And it's going to be difficult. And it's going to be hard. But I can tell you that there is another side to it. You will be able to get beyond it. But the key thing is that you have to really think it through, really be mindful of what that fear looks like and how to address it, how to attack it. And one of the ways that you can do that, you can write down. And see, one of the, I'm big on journaling. Mm-hmm. And I think all my other sister girls, we do a lot of journaling. We do a lot of journaling and we do a lot of accountability. And that's why I know for me, when fear shows up, I know that I have them. And they see, sometimes they could see fear in me before I see it in myself. Mm. And so that's why I'm so grateful for this, this sisterhood that, that I have. And so that's important for you to have in the audience, to have those relationships, to have those people in your life that can build you up. And that's going to build your resilience to fear. Mm. Because with, just like I said before, fear will show up. Fear will keep you from moving forward. Fear will keep you from your greatness. It will keep you from getting the things that you know that you're destined to get. And so as long as it holds you back, fear is winning. And so even, if you have a fear of failing, yes, you're going to have it. It will show up for you. But you got to move past it. You got to try it. So you have to get started, right? You can't finish until you get started, right? And so it's important that you be mindful of that fear, that you see that fear, and then you make every effort to get beyond that fear. And just, and I mentioned journaling and just, writing down what it is that you want and how you want to get there and what steps that you want to take to get there. And just be mindful, you could fail a couple of times, but you got to keep going. I know for me right now, I'm working on a project and I'm coming up against brick walls, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Now, while I don't talk about it much, my girls don't know, but it's that type of project that I'm working diligently on. And I'm working on, my PhD right now. And let me tell you something. Fear showed up for me a couple days ago. Fear was saying, you can't do this. I don't even know why you started this. I don't even know why you're going down that road. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been working on my PhD since 2016. And, I have issues with time management. I will beat that and then I will lose ground and then I beat it again. So I know what it feels like, but I know that this is what I want. And I know that I have to stay focused and I know that I have to regroup and I know that I have to attack the issue of that challenge. I know what I have to do. And so I think all those that are listening, all those that are out there, as fear bubbles up in you, you've got to focus on it, and you've got to evaluate it. You attack it, and then reset, and just keep going at it, because you can do it. You can do it. You can fight that fear.
And let me tell you something. That came from a retired FBI agent. And I looked at your background. When I saw your picture, I said, there's no way in the world this woman was hired by the FBI in the 80s. She doesn't even look like she was born in the 80s. Here you were, an FBI agent. But thank you for that. Because I will tell you, Rhonda, when I heard that all across this country, they're now opening things up, lifting restrictions, I'm petrified. I'm like, I know I can't go to the movies anymore. I can't go to the theater. I can't watch a play. I don't want to. I'm going to be 70 next month. They were planning a big, I don't want a gala. I don't want to be near people right now. Leave me alone with that. And so I know about fear. And one of the biggest, and some of you on the show don't know this, and some of you do know this, but one of the biggest hurdles I came across happened about 2.5 months ago. I had a medical issue, all kinds of symptoms that just really wore on me, and I finally had to go to a specialist. And they did a CAT scan with contrast. And I was there with my daughter-in-law, call her my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter. And the doctor came in, and she brought the chair up. Well, she was a PA, came in, brought the chair up to my knees. And our knees are touching each other. And she looks at me, and she said, I didn't want to be the one to deliver this news to you, but it appears that you have bladder cancer. Now, I will tell you, within those 30 seconds, I remember taking the button and bringing my head up a little bit in the bed. And I remember just staring at her. And she said, are you all right? And I said, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. We talked about it for a minute. My daughter-in-law followed her out, looked at the CAT scan, and they could see a crescent-shaped mass in the bladder. Now, fast forward, they did a procedure on me, and this is like 2.5 weeks later. In the procedure, the doctor called me the next morning, said, we have no clinical explanation as to what happened. The mass that was there was not there when we went in. Mm-hmm. It was there on the CAT scan. We couldn't tell from the CAT scan whether it was a solid or whether it was a gel or what it was, but whatever it was not there. But we know not everybody gets that kind of message. Yeah. And we have on our show tonight someone who didn't get that kind of message. And the thing that's so amazing, I'm always in awe of public figures who get the news that's not the news they want to hear, but they can't talk about it because they know if they announce it, such as being the mayor of the city of Camden, it's going to start a whole whirlwind of activity that will be negative and detrimental to the constituents you're serving. Dana, tell us about that diagnosis.
Thank you, Jeannine. As I listen to you share your story, and as I listen to my sisters who are here on this podcast, on this broadcast, there are a lot of thoughts that are running through my mind. One, let me just say that we are living in unprecedented times, and that is an understatement. And, and how we manage through COVID-19 and come out on the other side is a choice that we can make in terms of what we can control. Some things we cannot control in the external environment, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But what we can control is what's in our internal environment, what is in our homes where we're working. and where we're adjusting to the isolation, if you will. For us to be alone and isolated is not how we were designed or created. We are social human beings. And so, you know, finding ways to stay connected. But to your question, so I served as the mayor of Camden from 2010 until 2017. And, you know, my first term, they were the cleanup years. They were very difficult years. We were dealing with a budget deficit. We were dealing with layoffs, and, you know, those layoffs, when I had to make difficult decisions and choices, really propelled me to the national stage because we were living in a down economy at that time. And I had to lay off police and fire in 2011. And I remember the concern, the stress of how I was going to provide for the public safety of the citizens. And so, you know, I took a lot of, you know, my concerns for my city home with me each and every night and throughout the day. And so the intensity of leading the city, a city that I loved, and I loved being the mayor of Camden. It was the most fulfilling experience of my life. You know, over time, I believe it took a toll on my physical well-being. And so in 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. But let me tell you about the power of this group and how I arrived at the diagnosis, because I had been neglecting my health. Jeannine, you know, when we are public officials, we put us on the back burner.
Absolutely.
Because we're taking care of, you know, our responsibilities. We are taking care of everything else, everybody else except ourselves. And so I remember attending a Utopia retreat on Martha's Vineyard back in 2015. This retreat was led by none other than Dr. DC Marshall. And, you know, and she conducted this retreat with high level women who are CEOs, who were influencers, who were doing great things in their space. And, you know, I remember going through this exercise where she had 6 indicators and told us to grade ourselves on those indicators. Those indicators included health and wellness, our financial well-being, you know, our professional, you know, aspirations. But I remember giving myself a grade in the health and wellness. I gave myself a D that year, Jeannine. This was back in August.
So you knew it.
So I knew that I wasn't taking care of myself. I knew that, you know, I had let a lot of stuff slip. And so, you know, a part of that exercise in that room that day, Dee said, listen, if you could pick one area that you can improve by the end of the year, pick that, focus on it, and then make a decision to get that done by the end of the year. So I chose health and wellness. And in my mind, I made a conscious decision that when I returned back to New Jersey, I was going to go see all of my doctors, right? All of my preventative health visits, I started scheduling. And it was because I scheduled a visit, my mammogram, which, by the way, I had not had in 2 years. Time got away from me. That, you know, this, my breast cancer was discovered. And so, you know, I am a faith believer, and, you know, and God is so good that, you know, I was able to, you know, working with my physician, detected in time. I had a lumpectomy that year. And again, you know, when I got the call, I remember exactly where I was. I was in the mayor's office sitting at my desk, and my chief of staff was sitting across from me, and the doctor called, and she said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes, I'm sitting down." So she gives me the news. She says, "You know, I just want to let you know that your tests have come back and you have breast cancer." And so I was quiet at the time. I heard her, but my mind went problem, solution. What's the solution? What's next? And so she said, "Did you hear me?" I said, "No, I heard you. I want to know, what do I need to do next, right? I need to get to the next." But the delay factor of fear came after I was home recuperating, because I had a moment to pause, to be quiet. And when I thought about what I went through from the diagnosis to the surgery to recuperating at home, is when fear kind of gripped me one day while I was sitting at home. But there was a friend that called me to say, "Dana, I'm just calling to check on you. How are you doing?" It was just before I was about to cry. So, you know, so back to, you know, where we are right now, right? We're living and we're battling fear, anxiety, stress, trying to manage the day-to-day. Some of us are managing teams remotely, such as my case, making sure that my staff is okay, making sure that they're good mentally, emotionally, socially, encouraging them, but also trying to make sure that I am focusing on my health and wellness, on my self-care. And so Dee sort of mentioned about, us having this disruption in our lives, in the way we operate, the way we interact, but taking that time that we have and looking at how we want to come out of this. For me, I want to come out of this healthier, right? And so I've started making some adjustments, and some of those adjustments include, making a migration to a whole food, plant-based diet. And so cooking healthy, eliminating certain things out of my diet. I've also, to your point, when you were clearing your closet, I decided to clear the clutter at my house, right? Things that were out of place that needed to be put back in place, discarded, things that I'm never going to use again, never, I don't even know why I brought it in the first place. I started getting rid of things and creating a space where I could thrive, where I can be creative, where I can think, where I can reflect on what's important, right? Family is important. Those relationships that, we maybe didn't keep in touch with as much as we should have. I mean, these are all things that we can be doing while we're working at home, yes, but we also need to focus on ourselves and taking care of ourselves and not being guilty or feeling guilty about it. We deserve to love on ourselves, to be kind to ourselves, because when we are our best selves, that's when we can give our best to others. And so those are just some of the things that I would offer up for this conversation and to your viewers. And lastly, I will say, limit your intake of the news. You've heard experts talk about how much news you take in on a day-to-day basis. Get what you need so that you can make the right adjustments and you can make sure you're following the policy guidelines and guidances. But, turn it off after a while, because it's overload. Every day we're seeing the numbers, how many people have been diagnosed, how many people have died, and so those numbers are climbing, and we know that this is a marathon, right? This is not a sprint. And so we need to manage what we take in, but we also need to manage our environments and make sure that we're making the best decisions for our own personal well-being, our health, and making sure that we're doing our self-care, because we deserve it.
Thank you so much. Ladies, this has been so magnificent. Number one, I can't believe that we've been on for almost an hour. I just can't believe it, because I don't want to see it in. But the next thing is, you have left some wonderful pearls in the middle of the table. Something that people can take away. And I don't care who it is and what level they are. You left something for everybody here today. We're going to do a wrap up. Mitch, what is it? Give a word. What is it you want to leave with the viewers today?
I will tell you that most people do not have my kind of friends. And one of the things that I usually say is that, my friends, we have these titles. Like, we're not friends because we have these titles. We have these titles because we were friends.
Right.
And please ensure that you are surrounding yourself with individuals who encourage you and lift you up, who really believe in you and cheer you on, even when fear tries to take its root in you. These ladies do not take prisoners. And so you cannot come to them with the same complaint twice. Because they are quick to say, what have you changed about it since the last time we had the conversation? It's a shame, Jeannine. It really is. But it's because they want to ensure that you are not just going through something, that you're growing through something, that you are on the constant quest of self-evolution, that will bring you to the place of the purpose of the plan for your life, that you're here by design. And so with that, I just encourage individuals to look around at your friendship circle. Jeannine, thank you so much for this opportunity, and ensure that you have individuals around you who want the best for you, sometimes even better than you do.
I love it. Dr. D, give it to us.
I would just leave everyone with, I think, make a definitive decision. Decide is one of my favorite words, decide, because deciding is about making a decision after considering two or more options. And so a lot of times we are just on a path going through the natural progression of things and not making definitive decisions. And so I would offer up, make a definitive decision about how you want to come out. Thriving in chaos is about deciding. I'm deciding that I'm going to be the anchor for my family. I'm deciding that I'm going to be well. I'm deciding that there will be increase in and a better health outcome for me as much as I can control it. I'm deciding. So I would just encourage everyone to make a definitive decision and then document it. Write yourself a love letter and fill in the blank. Whereas I fill in the blank, decide that I am coming out of this. We're all coming out of this. And that I'm going to come out better financially. I'm going to come out better in my health and well-being. The fact that I am still alive and lots of people are not, I'm going to make a decision about my health and wellness. I'm going to take better care of my health and my wellness. I am going to tell the people that I love them. I am going to call and forgive the people who I need to forgive. And so I would offer up deciding, document it, write yourself a love letter, and also create. This is a time for, even if you're not an entrepreneur, everybody should have a business, a home-based business, so that financially you'll be better and you get your tax write-off in 2021. So my name is Dee Marshall, and I approve my own message.
I love it. I love it. Rhonda, leave a word on the table.
I just love it. So I just want to leave with everyone that fear, it could show up, and just know that you are in a great position to address that fear. You're gonna focus on that fear. You're gonna evaluate it. You're gonna attack it, and you're going to reset. And it's very, very important that when you see fear show up, you're gonna stare fear down and just let fear know, okay, I see you. That's right. But we're not going to have that today. I've got things to do. Today. I've got places to go. I have goals to set. And yeah, you might show up again, but we're going to have the conversation again, fear. You're going to just get on out of the way, and I'm going to take care of business. And so just to know that it could very well show up, understanding that it's going to show up in it could possibly show up in everything that you do, particularly when you are really trying to get to your greatness and you're trying to get to your genius and you're just really trying to do your best that you can. It could very well show up. But the difference is you're going to know how to handle it, and you're going to know how to address it.
Thank you. Mayor, leave it on the table.
All right. Well, to sum it all up, faith over fear, love yourself, be kind to yourself. When fear shows up, make a conscious decision to arrest it, actively arrest it. And how can you do that? You can do that by going walking. Take yourself outside. I walked today, got my mile in, had my playlist going. And guess what? If I can dedicate a song to everybody that's listening, it is strength, courage, and wisdom. Already, I dedicate it to your listeners tonight.
Thank you so very, very much. This has been so motivational, and it has been encouraging. You've given me enough to go on for today. Now, tomorrow morning, I may need to have another dose. I may wake up petrified again, but tonight I'm all right. As the kids say, I'm all right. And I want to tell you all about Friday's show. Friday's show, we have two men who have lived a life of crime. They are about as different as two men could be. One African American, one Caucasian. Both of them found themselves in a situation where they wanted to change their lives around. And each of them found themselves at some point in their lives being pardoned. The one gentleman, the African-American gentleman, was pardoned by New Jersey's former governor, Chris Christie. The white gentleman was pardoned by our former president, President Barack Obama. They're coming in on Friday. They're going to tell their story, but the exciting part about their story will be at the end of the show when I patch in their mothers, and the mothers are going to talk.
Wow.
So it's going to be an amazing program. Hope to see you guys Friday night, LaRuelist Cafe. My sisters, love you, love you, love you. Thank you.
Thank you.